For me is special. You love me is special. Different every time you keep me on my feet. Happily excited by your cologne, your hair, your smile, your intelligence. You fooled me, you caught me, you teased me, you pleased me, you schooled me. Give me some place to think about. Ain't nothing. You can find me. You like me. You love me. You like me. You inspire me to go on. You especially different every time you keep me on my feet. Happily excited by all your cologne in your hand, your smile, your intelligence. You hold me, you caught me, you tease me, you bless me, stroke me, give me things to think about. Invite me, you decline me, come on with me. You love me, you like me, inside me to chorus. La la la. Da 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 da. You're different and special. You're different and special in every way imaginable. You love me from my hair follicle to my toenails. You got me feeling like the breeze, easy and free and lovely and clean. Oh, when you touch me, I just can't control it. When you touch me, I just can't hold it. The emotion inside me, I can feel it. Sometimes you just gotta let some jelly from Philly bless. Welcome to Hot Topics After Dark.
I'm your host, Jeffrey DeShawn, and that's our artist of the week, Miss Jill Scott, the ever so dynamic, the ever so lovely, the ever so wonderful, just a full embodiment of divine. Miss Jill Scott. That's what I think about Miss Jill Scott. Anybody I know out there know Miss Jill Scott, let it know. Welcome to Hot Topics After Dark. We are talking. I'm talking. I invite you to join the conversation. So if you're seeing this, that means you're either on my Facebook or my Instagram. That means you have access to the Join the Conversation Zoom link. So if you want to join the conversation, there's a Zoom link on my Facebook post of Hot Topics After Dark on the Hot Topics After Dark Facebook page or on the YouTube that you can click and you can join the conversation. Or on Facebook, you can drop in a comment and I'll respond to it. You dig? Tell a friend, like, share. What they do? They do the like and share. You know, I'm new to this, but I always been true to this. Ooh, I worked it in an authentic way for me. But this is true. So like and share, tag a friend, because we are talking selfish self-love. Selfish self-love. Now, this is a hot topic after dark. This is a hot topic for the dark. This is a hot topic that can keep you safe, calm, in the dark. Selfish self-love. We just heard Miss Jill Scott. He loves me so special. Right? Selfish self-love. But why does it matter? I'm going to play another one. This is why. Because it only matters if you know that he loves you or she loves you or they love you. If you know that. Do you know that? We're talking selfish self-love tonight. We're talking selfish self-love tonight. Do you know? Do you know you're enough? Do you know? Do you know? Be honest with yourself. Do you think you are enough? There have been moments in my day, let alone my life, where I have been uncertain if I thought I was enough. But you gotta know enough. You gotta know I am enough. During the conversation, we're talking selfish self-love tonight. I'm on this topic because there's a lot of talk about self-love right now. Self-love and a lot of self-care as a coach and a therapist. You know, all about the self-care, myself, having to prioritize myself with intention since that which I do for a living and that which I'm prone to do in family and communities to care for others. I have to prioritize my self-love, my self-care. And we always talk about self-care. But I think what I've discovered is it's kind of hard to implement self-care or to even be clear on what self-care is for you if you don't have self-love. And I've noticed that when you bring up this conversation of self-love, a lot of times, particularly those of us who happen to be blessed to be born Black, it's a little uncomfortable talking about self-love. Of course, I love myself, but and folks start talking a little superficial. Oh, I like my hair. I like I'm smart. I like to do stuff. I don't like to need nobody. And then after that, you get a little uncomfortable. Selfish self-love. If you can't brag on yourself, well, how can you expect anybody else to brag on you? Selfish self-love. I'm learning that I have to be selfish about my love of myself. Um, We often say, in the biblical orientation, somebody comes from a Christian perspective in that, like faith and religion, most specifically, love thy neighbor as thyself. And I always think about that sort of that saying, and I started to think about, well, you know, some people don't love themselves the way I love myself. Some people don't love themselves at all. So to ask them to love me the way they love themselves, ooh, but then hold on. Do I love myself? And so that's what on this topic of selfish self-love. What do you think about it? Join the conversation. We got a Zoom link on the Facebook Hot Topics After Dark Facebook page, on the YouTube. Join the conversation. Selfish self-love. Do you love yourself? How do you know you actually love yourself? How do you know? I think exercising self-care is one of those ways that you can know if you love yourself, right? As a coach and a therapist, one of the like sort of inquiries you can make is like, is somebody caring for their self? Like, are they doing the basic needs, the basic things needed to care for themselves? Are they bathing, right? Are they brushing their teeth? Is their hair together, right? Based upon what is their usual, right? Not based upon what you think, but based upon what you know to be, or based upon what is hygiene, right? What there's some things you can tell. But selfish self-love. Like, do you love yourself and how do you know that you love yourself? And are you comfortable telling yourself, self, I love you? Are you comfortable telling you why you love yourself? Because I find it interesting. A lot of people, even in therapy and coaching, like find it uncomfortable, right, to talk about the affirmative, the positive things about themselves. It gets uncomfortable. Well, I got to do that. Well, if you can't communicate and talk about it, my goodness, how do you expect someone else to communicate and talk about it or even recognize? Selfish self-love. Let's talk about it. Join the conversation. There's a Zoom link in the Facebook chat or on the YouTube. Join the conversation. Selfish self-love, particularly for, I think, Black people, right? I find that it can be really hard to talk about yourself. Tomorrow, I'm blessed to be participating in Pathway to Excellence, which is a wonderful program and organization in Maryland, helping to connect people back to work and support individuals and building enterprise and small business opportunities. And I'm excited to join their Juneteenth edition of All Black Everything, where they bring in perspectives from across the sector, from the Black perspective, across industry. And tomorrow I'm going to be talking about reclaiming your story, rebuilding and recurating a professional narrative after a work hiatus for whatever reason, where you might be returning to the workforce. And to do that, to rebuild a personal story narrative after you've gone through challenge, after something has changed, it requires a loved, lived view of self. You must know that you're worthy, what's worthy about you. Like, it requires you to have a lens of self that is anchored in selfish self-love, right? For those who are out here on the job market and thinking about, how do you present yourself most confidently as the candidate for the role? Well, first you got to start off, what is it that you actually appreciate and like about yourself? Because, particularly in the present environment, nobody wants to work with somebody who, is not, some level likable, right? Some level at minimum liking themselves. So what is it that you like about yourself? What is it you appreciate about yourself? Selfish self-love. You got to know that, particularly for those of us who are looking to be in relationships and share relationship, whatever kind of relationship with others. Do you know what you are offering to these relationships that we fantasize and desire about? Do we know what we're bringing? I find that sometimes in the relationship space around this conversation around selfish self-love, that there's high expectations, particularly when I'm doing couples therapy. So I do couples therapy, however you are a couple, married, partner, just hanging out for a while or just hanging out for a month or so. If you need some support to have a conversation, here's the thing about couples therapy, a little tangent, is that you can have short-term couples therapy. It's okay. There may be a conversation that you need to have and you recognize you don't have the words, or your energy is not going to allow you to present it in a way where you can actually communicate, meaning you share information, you receive information, the other parties share information, you receive information, vice versa. Find a couples therapist that's willing to do 2, 3 sessions. I require at least 3 because I want to share something, get to know you, understand some things about you, do some work with you, and then I want to find out how the tools that we landed on have been working and how things panned out. So don't be afraid, those out there who might be navigating conversations around self-love and selfish self-love and couple dynamics. Find a therapist. I'm one that's willing to do it. I work with a network. I have a referral practice that works with other therapists. Find a therapist who's willing to have a couple sessions with you. Be honest up front. There is some conversations I need to have, and I need some support around it. And if they don't do that, they'll probably, if they're a therapist or practitioner, or if they saw, they'll probably at least try to point you, if not to a specific practitioner, a resource, a website, a network where you might be able to find a practitioner. You can also find a life mediation navigation coach if you're in a couple dynamic. And this is also good for non-intimate partner couples, right? This conversation around selfish self-love. If you're struggling to talk about what you need in a relationship as demonstrations of love, what you need, the time you might need not with your partner to exercise selfish self-love, the activities that you might appreciate doing solo, right? That exercise selfish self-love. You might need some support having conversations around it. A coach, a life navigation coach, which also I do, a mediation-oriented coach. There's great mediation centers in most major urban and suburban areas. You can find their mediation practice and mediation centers. There's a lot of individuals who've been trained to do mediation that do it in community. Selfish self-love is also not feeling like and honoring that you don't have to do it alone. Selfish self-love is saying, I need help. So I need to go and figure out and identify somebody who has the skills, who has information, who has perspective that can help me have this conversation, that can help me understand you. Selfish self-love is so important right now. It should not be, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. This came up in therapy with with couples that I was working with. And, one partner was recognizing that they were at a place where they really needed to be selfish. They really needed to be selfish about what they needed to appreciate themselves again, especially after having gone through some transition and change, job and health things. And it was a hard conversation, this conversation around selfish self-love. But it was an important one to have. And so if you're out there and you're struggling with prioritizing loving you, exercising self-care for you, and you need some support around that, get you some help. Identify a therapist, a coach, a counselor, who might even a mentor, who might be able to support you around identifying what that barrier might be for you exercising, accepting that you need to prioritize that self-love. Or it may be that I don't have no problem prioritizing. I'm gonna do what I need to do, but I don't know how to communicate this to my partner, my family, my friends. Get support. Families, those who are having dynamics with siblings, with parents, parents having the sort of strange dynamics with children because of misunderstanding around needs and care and love. Family therapy, family dynamic therapy can be so helpful. Identify a therapist that's willing to help facilitate you all having a conversation. And from there, you can start to have deeper awareness and understanding. Because if you can't talk to each other, you're never going to have understanding. The biggest mistake we make is that we think that, well, if we just keep yelling at each other, eventually somebody's gonna hear each other. No, you're not. You're just gonna continue to build up walls and resistance. And we learn how to navigate resistance, right? We learn how to get to our basic needs. That's our natural orientation to life is survivorship, and we know how to get to basic needs. And so we just learn how to navigate around the walls. And I see this in a lot of long-term relationships. We up through, we're good. And then other people will observe the dynamic and be like, "Ooh, that's toxic as I don't know what. Oh my goodness, I don't want to be around y'all." They're like, "We good, we good." It's like, well, no, y'all have grown into an orientation where you know how to navigate each other and you navigate around each other's roadblocks and things. But to others who don't know that navigation stream nor have the emotional scars that that you slide over to get forward, is wounding. And so selfish self-love is also exercising for the person who's like, I don't understand that dynamic. It's wounding to me. I'm gonna exercise some self-love and tap out of it, right? We have that sometimes dynamics with family dynamics. You're not involved, but you present, or you have a relationship with both. This is a lot with friendship groups. Ooh, I love watching the little reality shows. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. As a therapist and coach and a counselor, a person who I love people in life and life orientation and learning through living and observing us through life. I like me some Bravo. Oh, not all of them shows, but there's some particular shows I like. What's happening in friendship dynamics, particularly with women? Oh my goodness. Get some therapy, sisters, mothers, sisters, aunties, and friends. Let's get some group friendship dynamic therapy, because what's happening in these sister friendship groups, baby, and as a child, a son of Black indigenous women who spent my whole life being blessed by Black and indigenous women as well as Black and indigenous men and others. But in my life space, work, friendship, kinship, communityship, we have to get our hands around these social dynamics um, that are breaking down our ability to have self-love. There's so many people that are wounded, have been wounded by these friendship dynamics in groups that they don't know how to exercise self-love for their own self anymore. You have some folks that have been beat out of speaking up for themselves, and they're adults getting bullied uh, in social situations. Um, and that stuff reverberates over in community. So if you out there, you in a friendship group, and you tired of doing what the friendship group is doing, and you need a break, and you need some support in having a conversation to say, "Ooh, I got to take a break." Get yourself a therapist. Got yourself 2 to 3 sessions. Figure out how to have that conversation. Go on about your way. Now, I guarantee you what's going to happen is if it works for you, you're going to come back. As I said, any therapist worth the salt going to tell you how many sessions, minimum sessions. I prefer minimum 3. I'm not worried to have 3 sessions with you. Because if it's working for you, you'll come back if you need. And hopefully, as a good therapist, I want you to go and exercise these tools. I want you to go and try yourself on out as the daily breathly leader of your life. That's exercising self-love. And then come back, let's check in, let's see how you're doing. Right. So if you're out there and you used to have a therapist, sometimes you fall out with your therapist. You grow out with your therapist. And sometimes your therapist you can outgrow your therapist, and sometimes your therapist can out practice you, meaning that you reach the boundaries of what their skill set is. And that's fine. We customize, we practice. There's not one therapist that can treat everybody around everything. If you meet a therapist or a mental health clinician, is like, I cover everything. Back it up. Back it up. There are a lot of us that are generalists, but when we get to a place where I don't have the expertise, I don't have the experience, I'm gonna refer you off to my colleagues who do, because one, that's ethically what we're supposed to do, and two, this is what's gonna help get you forward. You need the information, the knowledge, the skill set that's gonna help you get forward. And so that's 2 selfish self-love topic. Next topic: if you're out there and you're stuck and stagnated, and you need more in a personal life environment, relationship dynamic, professional dynamic. I do a lot of career coaching. A lot of folks who don't know how to navigate the need, to uh, experience something other in their career and work life. Get you some coaching. Get you some coaching. Get you some counseling. Exercise the self-love, self-love, and say, I need some support and help. Because if we could figure it out, we would. One of the reasons I focus predominantly my work stream is coaching, counseling, and advising these days is because when I got to the place in my professional and personal life career, I could fully recognize and honest I needed help and accepted that help was when I leveled up the most. And when I say leveled up, I'm not talking about, everybody needs to level up their resources. We all need to big up our bag that we can manage and keep and care for ourselves and those that we love and care about. But I mean, leveled up in my ability to navigate through the transitions and changes of life. When I leveled up my mental and emotional to be able to say, okay, is what do I want? What do I desire? Therefore, what do I need to do? What I can do. When I leveled up there, then I began to really start to be able to exercise self-love. That self-love that prioritized what I needed and need most. And it's a work, it's a breathly work. As long as you're living with body and present and mind and here, it is a work. It's never done, right? And so that's the trick of the stigmatic mind and world. And that's why sometimes you have to be careful about your healing. For those of us who know we are in life recovery from life, a lot of folks, you hear recovery and we think just consumption, substances. No, many and most of us, if you found that you've ever had a problem with imbalance with consumption, which I have, I think most all have, whatever that is, food, liquid consumption, other kinds of consumption, people consumption. We consume each other too now. Let's be honest about it. If you've ever found that you've had an imbalance with consumption and you've communicated that or had to get public help or had a challenge break where your consumption had to be imbalanced, had to be acknowledged or became known, it can be hard to have a conversation, right, about what you need because you feel like, oh, people know that about me, whatever. And so if you're out there and you navigated issues with consumption and imbalance, even it may not have been full addiction, but it may have been a period or periods, but usually it goes cycle, especially with food and drink and things like that. And you need some support around having that conversation because sometimes you need some support to have the conversation with a partner. Life changes, things are different. I can't do that the way I used to. Selfish self-love is getting the support you need so you can have the conversation. Intimate partner relationships. Things change. There's some things that you don't enjoy doing the way you once did when you met or the once time you did them. Selfish self-love is communicating that to your intimate partner. But it's hard because there's dynamics involved with both with validation, appreciation, and fear maybe that, they won't want to be with me, be my intimate partner anymore. But if you're in a situation where you feel like now you don't have a choice in doing the thing that you're now doing with your intimate partner, because if you tell them you want to stop doing it, they may not be your intimate partner, get some support. Coaching, counseling, get some support to have a conversation. And if needed, bring your intimate partner into couples counseling, coaching, and therapy. Couples coaching, couples counseling, coaching, therapy. Bring them in and get some support around having that conversation. Selfish self-love is putting yourself first by ensuring and that you can have the ability to not put yourself in harm's way. If you're in a social dynamic, a professional dynamic, where you feel like you're in harm's way, and it's changing environments where values and morals are put in false question, people start to stretch the boundaries. And if you're out there and you feel like you're in an environment where somebody's stretching the boundaries, selfish self-love is go get some support, find you a counselor, find you a coach, find you a therapist, find you an advisor, so you can have practice, acknowledge what's going on, have a conversation in a safer space so you can figure out what is the safer move to be able to have the conversation with the other parties. That's selfish self-love. We have to exercise that because in all putting your oxygen mask on first, fam, faves, likes, loves, those I've yet to meet. Loving ourselves is the first step in the process. And being selfish about loving ourselves is required to maintain our flow of oxygen. Okay? Talking selfish self-love tonight. Join the conversation. I'm going to be back next week, Hot Topics After Dark, 8 o'clock hour, 8 o'clock on Thursday evenings. I'm talking some things that, I care about. In my work, again, as a coach, counselor, and advisor, I start to notice themes across sectors. I am blessed to support people in their personal life, intimate partner relationships, personal relationships, family dynamics, parental relationships. And then I'm also in position to support folks who are bringing that person into their leadership in organizations, in companies, and business enterprises, and elected, appointed community roles. And then I'm also blessed to be able to work with groups who are trying to figure out how we can work together to achieve something, or how we can come together to resolve something, a relationship, a connection that might have broken. And in that, I recognize that at the end of the day, in order for any of that work to be successful and to align, right? When you have multiple parties, multiple people, love has to come in the room. And we bring love into the room. Love isn't this amorphous thing that's just there and present. It actually is there and present in nature. It's there and present in our plants. The fact that trees continue to grow and produce oxygen despite all that we do to try to, limit their ability to do so, right? Love is actually in nature, in the room. Nature shows love and care. But just like nature brings love into the room through providing nutrients and nourishment and the elements that we so clamor to claim, we have to bring the element of love into the room and our social dynamics. And that first starts with us loving ourselves and experiencing and being intentional about experiencing selfish self-love with ourselves. Because when we allow ourselves to experience selfish self-love within ourselves, we are able to then have a level of love that we can share with somebody else that's almost unbreakable. When you start off with that level of selfish self-love about who you are, how you show up in the world, what it is that you have to bring into the world, when you step into the world and life space first, from that dynamic, you start to position yourself to be near unbreakable, your love to be unbreakable. The dynamic between you and another might change. You might grow in a direction and they grow in a different direction. You might evolve and learn that there's a misalignment that is a boundary. Love can still be in the room and you still go forward and say, well, I love myself. And so I'm going to love myself forward. When we don't have self-love in our room of life, when relationships change because we change, others change, money changes, health changes, their interests change, and we just not interested in that. They now think they funny, and I don't like funny. They now think they pretty, and I ain't never liked pretty people. Whatever it might be. we don't have to lose ourselves. We don't have to lose our self-love, our love of self, because we will have it anchored into our foundation to know that which it is that we love about ourselves, first and foremost, before we invite anybody else to share our space. Talking selfish self-love, it's required. Put your own oxygen mask on first before you go out here trying to share your air with another. Selfish self-love is required, fam, faves, likes, and loves. And for you souls I've yet to meet also. All right. I'm Jeffrey DeShawn, and this has been Hot Topics After Dark. Ooh, selfish self-love. We're going to go out with our artist of the week, Miss Jilly from Philly. Live at the Tiny Desk. In celebration of I'm pleased that really did. You're probably your style, your smile, your peace mentality. I can see the king's supposed to be. Come with me, let's get out of one around the park. Must have spark a conversation, relation, stimulation, share, situation, temptation, education, relaxation. Or maybe we could talk about solar, purity, squeaky clean. We wait on say, we all sell, but you down to make some of they're so thick, all that's the thing. You let me change, right there. Self-love, sensation of yourself and realization, stimulation. Explain yourself. Let yourself. Please help me see. Maybe we can pull a tree. The trees and lift us up. From any profit to at the best side of that prayer, I need to set the side. And risk. We can take to the cell after the social to the side. To the side. Just Charity space doing it with an all. That's Miss Jilly from Philly, our artist from the week, live at the Tiny Desk. Yeah, this has been Hot Topics at the Dog, talking selfish self-love. I'm Jeffrey DeShawn. Until next time, love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you think somebody else. Sweet. It's yours. Use it. This ain't a happenstance or a whim. I love his company.